This original story was directed by me, told by Brenda Young, who will share her time she had in Ontario, Canada, a very terrifying experience in which she will tell upon her perspective. Just a fair warning that this is a touchy subject to a certain audience, as if it was for her. Your discretion is advised.
Through the court process, Wright was accused and proven guilty and was sent to jail. Hello, my name is Brenda Young. I am going to recall an incident which happened in about 1977 when I had two young children. One was 7 years old and my daughter was about 3.5 years old. And it was summertime and I was preparing dinner about 5 o'clock in the kitchen, and daughter was in the front room playing and my son was outside playing with his friends. And I heard a loud banging on a screen door at the back of the house. So I went to the back of the house thinking the kids were banging there. So I could see no one. So I pushed open the door, and as I did, this young, maybe 16, 15-year-old teenager boy grabbed the door and jumped inside the house. And he grabbed me by my shirt and he started shaking me. And I was looking at it. His eyes were just bright and no expression. And I said to him, stop. And suddenly, as he started it, he backed out of the house and left.
Describing this man a little.
He was very dark-haired, tall, teenager, probably about 15, 16 years old, and very dark eyes. And I thought I recognized him as being one of our good tennis players, junior tennis players at our local club. So I was shaken and I went to the front of the house and I went out the door, and my next door neighbor was coming home, and I went to him and I told him what had happened, and he said, I bet that was Wright. And this was a boy who lived sort of on the corner lot to our lot. And I was very shaken up. And my husband came home then, and we called the police to come over and describe what had happened. So when the police did come, they interviewed me and asked me about the incident. I guess they also asked me if I sat outside and sunbathed, and I said, yeah, I sometimes did, the kids outside. And anyways, they said, well, they were going to go around and knock on this person's door and interview him if they could find him. And apparently they did go around to his house, and his sister answered the phone. His parents were out of town at the time, and they did not see this young man, so the case was sort of left at that. In the next few days, my husband and I went up to the local police department to report the incident, and they took down and recorded what I had said, but they said this will probably never be kept on a record. So I felt that was the end of the situation. I wanted to make sure my identification was right. So some of the children, not young people across the road, had gone to school with this person. So I asked them for their yearbooks, and they showed me his picture, and I said positively that's who it was. What else?
How did you feel after seeing that?
Very shaken up, very uncomfortable to be around the house. We had a pattern as we went to our cottage every Friday night and returned on Sunday night. And that day that was a Monday, I had been putting my laundry away, and I felt that my drawer where I kept my underwear had been disturbed. So then when I talked to the next door neighbor, she said, I often saw Wright in your backyard. She said, I thought he was just retrieving a ball. So it crossed my mind that he had somehow been in our house when we weren't there. So I felt uncomfortable living in that house for the next year or so. As I would go out the back door to put garbage, whatever, in the garage, I would sometimes see his father would be leaning on the fence, just staring into our backyard. For what reason, I do not know.
I thought I had some. That's the cottage. Oh dear. There it is, Devin. That would be his house, the two-story house. So our corner was here, and there. That was his house.
So by 1979, we had purchased the house out of that neighborhood, and we moved from that area. And we you get on with life, and you figure, you have to live with that. But anytime I ever heard a door being knocked on, like that screen door was, it always brought back the memory of that day.
So that had an effect on you, and it allowed you to make the choice of moving a little bit, like, to another.
It probably did. Yeah. Although we knew we would miss the tennis club that my husband and I both played at. And we did, even after we moved, we did return for a couple of years to play at that tennis club until we got into the tennis club in the new area we're living in now.
Yeah. And it's like, so this affects you now. You want to describe how this affects you now a little bit more? Other than the banging, of course.
No, not really. Although it's sort of, you get on with life and thinking nothing was ever going to come of that again until about, 10 years later, I had a phone call from the police department in Toronto, and they asked if they could come and interview me again about this incident. And they wanted to come right then, and I said, I had to go pick up my son at high school, and then I would be home. So they arrived at the house, and they talked to me about the incident and asked me to record what I had experienced and felt the day of his entering the house uninvited. And then they went on to tell me that he was up on charges for murdering a workmate of his. Apparently they had she was married and her husband was out of town, and they had gone to some sports event of the company, and he had driven her home. And when the husband came home in a few days, he found his wife dead in bed. What else can I say? So anyways, through the court process, Wade Wright was accused and proven guilty, and was sent to jail.